Welcome, my beautiful people, to the weekend review. My name is Fernando David, and as always, we're going to go ahead and start off with questions. And today's question comes from John, or his handle is John Air 629. John Air 629. His question reads, what's the difference, or is there a difference between having a strict cancellation policy and a flexible cancellation policy? And it's interesting that he asked that question because I just recently did a video regarding or in reference to this exact same topic. And here's what we did. About 6 months ago, we decided to test out the different cancellation policies and how they affected our bookings. And here's what we found out. In our policy, whether it was flexible, moderate, or strict, between flexible and moderate, there wasn't much difference. There was very little difference. In fact, it was so minute that it really didn't make a difference in terms of impressions, but where the difference was in terms of conversion rate, right? Between flexible and moderate, it was small. It was a 1.2% difference between our properties that had flexible cancellation policy and our properties that had moderate. But where the big difference was between moderate or flexible and strict. So we saw a 27.2% difference in conversions, right? Between those two policies, or those three policies. So if you currently have a strict cancellation policy, what our study demonstrates is that it is hurting your listings. You're going to get less bookings, you're going to get less conversion rate if you have a strict cancellation policy. So we're recommending you don't do that. And the next question comes from Tiny House 69. Their question is, let me see if I understand the question right. It reads, you mentioned in your digital marketing video that Instagram was a good way to advertise your properties. But do you recommend that we start a new Instagram for our vacation rentals, or can we use a personal Instagram to promote our tiny house vacation rental? Okay. I'm a big fan of using social media to promote your properties. I did a whole video on digital marketing, but here's what I recommend, right? It depends on whether or not you currently have a decent following or loyal following in your personal Instagram page. Meaning, if the people that you have in your personal page, if you, let me see if I can phrase this right. If they can be your avatar, meaning if they could be a future customer and they're loyal, then keep that page. Most of the time, that's not going to be the case, because most of the time, most of the people that are currently following you on your personal page are following you because they know you and they like you, and they're probably friends and family, and they're probably not going to be your customer. But if they are, then keep that page and just heavily promote your short-term rental using that page. If they're not, then start a brand new page just for your short-term rental and then heavily promote that. But when I say promote it, here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to be too salesy, right? There should be a balance between providing information or a good word, and I'll steal it from Patrick McDavid, is that your channel should be more of a value-tainment channel, meaning it should entertain, it should provide information, it should educate, but the majority or a good portion of your videos should be providing and giving your viewers value. It's not necessary to sell to them yet, right? You can do that, but make that maybe 20% of what you're producing as like a strict sales pitch. The rest just add value, because when you add value, and if at the end of your videos you always ask, like for example, and I'll do this now on this video, please hit the like button right? Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. But if you have a good, strong call to action on your videos, all your videos, then you should start to establish a good loyal base, and you'll get this. You should make some good sales and get people to come to your property using your Instagram page. Okay. So now let's talk about our business itself. As always, let me go ahead and go into what we generated for this week in terms of sales. So in terms of sales this week, we made $34,868.41. And that's in our rental fees and additional fees such as cleaning fees. We made another $8,764.74. So that's our revenue. We had, in terms of percentage of booking platforms, let me go there. Okay, Airbnb again was number one in terms of booking platforms. They're at 32.6%. Our own booking platform is at 28.6%. And then there was a mixture between, or they're pretty much even about 8.7% with HomeAway, Marriott, Winstead, and this Winstay, WHINSTAY. Those had the remainder of our bookings. And here's an interesting point on Winstay. If you don't know that platform, I'm a big fan of that platform. They're actually making big moves in the short-term rental industry. And basically what they are is that they're a last-minute booking website. Google really likes them. So if you, for example, if you look at our properties, if you Google any of our properties, we're gonna show up, but oftentimes we're gonna show up on their website, meaning their website's what's gonna show up when you actually Google it. So I'm a big fan of Winstay. What else? Okay, in terms of incidents, we didn't have any major incidents in terms of receiving bad guests, but here's where we started, or here's something I want to talk about because we had a couple of incidents on this. And I mentioned this before. Setting up expectations and communicating with your guests during their search process, or when they send an inquiry, when they book, during their stay and after their stay is extremely important. We had a guest. They booked a property, and right off the bat, they weren't happy with our process. And let me talk about our process. When you book with us, first of all of our listings, it clearly states that we're going to do a guest verification process. We're going to take either a deposit, a refundable deposit, or you can pay for an insurance waiver. Now, these happen outside of the Airbnb platform. And a lot of people are not used to that, right? Even though I think more and more you're going to start to see that, but they're not used to that because most of Airbnb hosts are mom and pop operators. And because they're mom and pop operators, they don't have the extra benefits that companies like ours have with Airbnb. So for example, because we are a company and because we are attached to through Airbnb from an API, meaning we have our own PMS system, our own website, and we're attached to Airbnb, we can work and do outside of the Airbnb platform. So when someone books with us, they're going to be taken off the Airbnb platform. They have to go through our processes and then go through our systems. So this particular guest who is an Airbnb traveler and has traveled a lot is not used to this. Or she wasn't used to this. So right off the bat, she was asking, she writes to us and says, this is against Airbnb policy to ask for money outside of the platform, which is what we were actually doing, which was for the deposit or the waiver. So we had to educate the guests. And this is the point of this message, or this part of this video, is that oftentimes when you're doing something different, Educating the public is extremely important, especially if you don't want to have a negative impact on that guest, right? So right off the bat, our interaction was confrontational. Here's what I like to do. I personally do not like to, when I feel that there's kind of a little bit of tension between my staff and a guest, I want my staff to pick up the phone and call the guest so they can have a verbal conversation over the phone. Going back and forth through text messages only creates more problems. It's our experience, it doesn't help. It just creates more confusion and more problems. So I highly recommend when you're interacting with a guest and you start to feel tension within the text or written communication form, get on the phone and call them. If it's an inquiry, you're not going to be able to do that. But if they book and you're having this type of communication, then pick up the phone and call them. They should, like our policy or my policy is, if someone's asking more than 3 or 4 questions back to back, just pick up the phone and call. There's no need to go back and forth on text messages. Anyways, my beautiful people, hope this information was useful. If it was, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Follow me on Instagram because you're going to find a lot of tips on Airbnb, a lot of stuff that what we do, it's going to be on Instagram. And if you want to donate to this channel, go ahead and buy me a coffee. See you in the next one.